And one. Well, hello, good day, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. How are you? This is the first Six Elementals interview for 2026. So happy New Year to everyone out there. I was actually hoping, and I was just speaking to both of these wonderful people about it, that these two people are really important to me. I respect them so much. They're amazing. I'd actually want them to be one of my first Six Elemental interviews. However, schedules, things happen, but I said they're going to be a first of something. So in this case, they're the first Six Elementals interview of 2026. I'm so incredibly privileged and humbled to have the wonderful Fiction Fans podcast team, Sara and Lilly, with me. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having us, Piel. We are honored to be on Six Elementals, first of the year. We'll take it.
Thank you so much for inviting us. I mean, any reason to hang out with you. So
basically, yes.
I feel the same. Deb sends her love, by the way. We just for people who weren't aware, if you didn't see my million pictures from from WorldCon in Seattle. One of the biggest highlights of the trip, obviously, was meeting Sara and Lilly. Got to spend a little time with them. So, yeah, it was just amazing. I think one thing that, because for those of you in the bookish community, we all know Sara and Lilly are beloved. They're awesome. But I think the nice thing about these interviews is that Sara and Lilly are usually on the other side of the camera. So it's nice for us to get to know more about them when someone like me sits down and talks to them. So that is the goal today.
I really getting back at us when we had the chance to interview you. So you're like, it's my turn now.
I think this might actually be the first time that we've been the ones being interviewed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lilly.
Really?
Well, I mean, we've collaborated before.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as like being on the other side of the interview.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, long overdue. Long overdue. And another huge fan of yours, of course, dear friend of all of ours, my amazing co-host from maybe to the pages, amazing co-host from Patreon. Taylor, love you lots. Great to see you always. Hope you're doing well. Of course, she wouldn't miss this if she could, because obviously huge fans of both of you as I am. So thank you so much.
We love her too.
Hi, Taylor.
She is amazing.
She is.
Yeah, she is absolutely incredible. So, two cousins get together and kind of do a thing.
It's all Lily's fault.
Oh, you're blaming her, eh?
Entirely blaming her.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna get down to business then. We're gonna find out how this whole Fiction Fans thing came together. So I'd like to hear from both of you, each of you, individually, because although, of course, you're a team, you may have some slightly different perspectives on how this thing happened, obviously, since Sara's blaming Lilly. So I want to hear from both of you. So how did this come together?
I think it was a phone call. I was so mad about something I was reading, which, if you've listened to our podcast, is shocking. So I called Sara immediately to complain about it to her. And 2.5 hours later, I was like, you know what? Maybe we should record this.
And I said, absolutely not. I am not doing a podcast. There is no way you are dragging me into this. And here we are almost 6 years later.
Wow, 6 years later. Wow. That's fantastic.
We're just going to be finishing up our 5th year of podcasting in February.
Well, congratulations. So happy for you. That's amazing. Fantastic. What an accomplishment. I'm guessing that as cousins, you were always rather close, growing up together, I'm presuming. But, just because you're cousins and you get along well and your family, you probably like sisters, and just because you both like books, and just because, yada, yada. But then doing a podcast is still another leap. So how specifically did we get there?
I mean,
good question.
Yeah, I like I said, it was all Lily's fault. So I do not take any blame for that.
Wasn't it a pandemic thing? I think it was.
You wanted to. You had said that you wanted to read more books, and this was in December of 2020. So pandemic. You had said that you wanted to read more books. No. It was.
Oh no, yeah, it was partway through.
Yeah, it was partway through. You had said that you wanted to read more, and when I said absolutely not, there's no way I'm doing a podcast with you, you kept hounding me until I agreed.
I am the younger cousin, if that needed to be said.
All right. Okay. So, Lilly twists Sarah's arm. You get this podcast going, and then people start listening to it. People are liking it and commenting, and then you get one guest, and then two guests, and then three guests, and then more, and then I can only speak from my very limited perspective of doing YouTube, and I certainly haven't been doing, this type of form nearly as long as you ladies. You ladies are veterans, you're pros. Does it feel like, is it something integral now to what you do? Is it something that, I can stop tomorrow and it'll be fine because you're still going to be cousins, you're still going to be friends, and you're still going to talk about books? Is it something that it's really, really added value to how you think about books, the interaction with the community? Like, so what's been the effect of your amazing podcast?
I mean, I definitely think that my favorite part of it has been the interaction with the community, because everyone has been so lovely, and particularly since we started in the pandemic, a lot of my interaction with people was online, and so this really did kind of fill a slot for me. I would be really sad if we stopped doing the podcast entirely. Like, I have a great time, not just because it's an excuse to hang out with Lilly. I don't really need an excuse. We can just hang out, but it is a great excuse to hang out. But it's fun to argue about books with her every week, and disagree, sometimes vehemently.
I mean, I sure have been reading more since we started. Success there, anyway. And I find myself, even when I'm reading something not for the podcast, I've started thinking more, I annotate more often. I think okay, I'm feeling this way. Why is this making me react? And so I definitely think I'm reading more closely now. Although, that being said, I was an English major in college, so it's not like a total shift in perspective. But for fun reading, that's definitely something that the podcast has brought, which I enjoy. So I probably would never, at this point, never stop doing that. So why stop recording our conversations about it?
Okay, well, that's encouraging news for fans of your podcast and you, such as I. So I don't want to give away any trade secrets here, but I'm looking to give a little peek behind the curtain for especially the audience that's going to watch this and is going to be so fascinated about learning about both of you and what you do. So how does it work with the books? Do you both collaborate, go, this book looks interesting, this author looks interesting, let's check it out? Is it just because one of you happens to read a book, you're like, yeah, maybe this one might be good for the podcast? What do you think? Or how does that all work?
I would say that
evolved.
Yeah.
From the beginning. I think in our early couple of episodes, we didn't even both read the book necessarily, which has changed dramatically.
Yeah, our early episodes were definitely much more experimental in a way. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to do anything. So we have changed our methods. I would say that I tend to be the one who adds stuff to the calendar more often, because I'm the one who does all of our social media. And so I'm seeing people talk about books that sound really interesting to me. And I go to Lilly and say, hey, I want to do this. And she says, that doesn't sound like a me book, or yeah, sure, why not?
And even if it doesn't sound like a me book, it could still be worth talking about on the podcast.
Well, yeah, okay. So sometimes there are books that you say, or that we both say are so not us books that we don't want to cover them on the podcast. But
so okay, so I'm getting a sense that, and again, you guys are very close, you're cousins. You may like a lot of the same type of books, but of course you have your individual tastes. Do you feel you like the same type of books? And if there's a variance there, where is that variance? For example, someone doesn't like romantasy, someone loves it. Someone doesn't like fantasy with too much violence, they want the more cozy stuff. Someone wants the battles. So talk about your reading taste a bit, if you don't mind. Like how does that play with what you do with the podcast?
We definitely both lean into, speculative fiction, fantasy. So in a broad sense, our tastes go in the same direction. But when you get into the particulars, like you were saying, I think that is where some of our differences really come out. The most obvious is like courtly politics is so not my jam.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of overlap in our tastes, but definitely when you start going into more specific subgenres, we diverge.
Okay, so does that divergence, is the meeting point of that divergence, does that make for really, really, really good conversations? For example, if you get an author that maybe when he's like, I like to work with some things that I really don't like because it's not part of my taste, and one of you does that still make for really good conversations about books?
I think it makes for better conversations, honestly.
I think that's where, obviously anyone can have a good-natured argument. I don't think that we have the only dynamic like that. But something I think about us being family and having known each other our whole lives, we can get a little bit farther and have it not feel too bad, either for us or the listener. Which I do think takes it to maybe a more interesting level than people who are like, I don't want to make my co-host mad.
And I also think that we have more interesting discussions when we disagree, just because we are then able to spend more time hashing out what it is that the disagreement is about. Whereas when we both agree on a point or on a book, there's not a lot to say there necessarily. And so sometimes that kind of conversation can be, I don't want to call it boring, but a little less engaging.
Some of our shortest episodes are the books that we both enjoyed the most. Because we just sit there and go, yeah, I liked it too.
That's awesome. So, okay. So you may or may not have heard or seen tags on YouTube similar to this, but one of the tags I find fascinating that a lot of booktubers, it's not a tag in it like a standalone tag, but I see it incorporated a lot of booktubers when they tag people. Can you each give me a book that tells the audience and myself about how to get to know Sara and Lilly? So can you each give us a book that to get to know me, this is the book.
Me as a person or me as in my reading tastes? I feel like those are different answers.
That's an excellent point. Actually, okay, well then, you know what? Give me two then.
Okay.
Give me two then.
Me as a person, my answer is going to be the YA series, The Enchanted Forest by Sara. You're going to have to help me with the author.
Patricia C. Reed.
Thank you. So much. Not even that it's necessarily to this day my favorite series or that I reread it the most, but there are so many aspects of it that I hear myself in my mind referencing back to, especially like the one that I reference the most is king is a title, not a gender. So yes, of course a lady dragon can be the king of dragons. Just like it's in my psyche in a way that other series are not.
And the second, so a book that the second part of the question, essentially. Sorry.
As far as me as a reader, oh no, I thought Sara would jump in and I'd have time to think about it.
No, because this is an unexpectedly difficult question. I have been sitting here trying to think of my answers and letting you take one for the team.
Well, it's top of mind because we just read it this last year, but I think Death on the Caldera by Emily Paxman is a very emblematic book for things that I like as a reader. The setting, it's sort of a like fantasy Agatha Christie novel.
Okay.
So you get like a really cool vintage setting, but it's still fantasy with a fun magic system, and there's a murder mystery. So that's just like a lot of things I really enjoy.
Okay, that sounds excellent. I'm definitely TBR adding as I go along here. So, okay, you're on the hot seat, Sara. What do you got?
Yeah, okay. So for me as a reader, I think I'm going to have to go with Discworld. It's a little bit of a cheat because that is a series. If I had to pick one specifically, it would probably be Night Watch, because that's the one that I reread every year for the anniversary of Pratchett's death. And it's a series that I picked up as like, a middle schooler or something, and just absolutely devoured. And I think it still speaks to a lot of what I love as a reader. It's got the fantasy elements. It does have really thoughtful social commentary. It's got humor. The stories are just fun to read. So I think that pretty much emblemizes what I like in a book. I mean, not exclusively, of course. I like things beyond that, but if you have those elements, it is pretty easy to hook me in.
Okay.
And then for a series that represents me as a person, or a book that represents me as a person, I think I'm actually going to go with the Silmarillion because it's fantasy. It's a little stuffy. It's a little academic.
Yay!
I feel like I'm all of those things.
Yes, I am. Oh my gosh, I am. And of course, your answers were excellent, of course, Lily, but I'm cheering because now you've touched me on a personal level because I am someone who I can't tell you how much flack I get with some of my reading friends for liking things like The Silmarillion, Fire and Blood by George R. Martin. So books that, I mean, for some of my friends, they consider them like reading like a reference book or like I guess, and I guess I feel like there's so much value in lore, in history, in that it doesn't have to be dry. And I don't believe that the Silmarillion, for example, or Fire and Blood are dry, but a lot of people find it that way. So I'm sorry, that just struck a little nerve with me. So sorry, I got carried away because I love the Silmarillion.
No, I really enjoyed that tone in a book. It makes for denser reading, but there's just something about the combination of like lore and that slightly academic text that just it works for me.
Shivkas. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think I said this to a friend of mine in a book chat. Was basically okay, but you realize that you don't get to Song of Ice and Fire and all the wonderful things that you read, for example, with the Targaryens and what makes them so unique and so mysterious. Like, but if you really want to know about them, read Fire and Blood, right? Same thing with the similarity and contrast. So the whole world of Tolkien, the elves, like when you read the Silmarillion, so much more makes sense, and I think it's so much more meaningful afterwards. But I get it why a lot of people don't. But again, that just kind of hit a chord. So, so I have a specific question for Lily. So, it's funny when you said, oh, like Sara kind of does this, and I kind of go, yeah, or no, like so. Based on some of Sarah's kind of like, hey, maybe we'll try this, and you're like, yeah, okay, give it a shot. have you had any really positive surprises based on things that Sarah's gone, yeah, let's give this a shot? You're like, okay.
Absolutely. The most recent one was probably The Goblin Emperor, by whose name I also
Catherine
have
Addison.
forgotten. Thank you. I think it's obvious which one of us is managing our calendar more closely. Which, funny enough, is a not a book that I would say fits the my usual tastes as a reader.
Yeah.
But I still loved it. So I think it's a really good example of a book doesn't have to be to my tastes to be enjoyable. It just means I loved it in spite of everyone having 4 different names that I had to remember. I can still like books with a lot of names. It's just a roadblock.
It's a harder barrier for entry.
Yes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I think maybe that's probably one of the biggest complaints that I think in turnoffs I've found with some of my friends and lovers of fiction in general, but not necessarily historical fiction or fantasy, because they just these huge casts with big huge appendices, and it's kind of stuff I was saying earlier about when Sarah mentioned similarly, like a lot of people, that's a turnoff, right? And I think, as even if it's simplistic, like, I mean, I said to someone the other day, you can't get much more simplistic than the British royal family and British history in terms of and dating back to medieval times, where half the kings were named Edward and the other half were named Henry. I mean, that's not hard, is it? And they're like, no, that's what makes it confusing, because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. I'm like, yeah, but still, right? So, but no, that's a really interesting take, Lily. That's a really interesting take.
But then if you say absolutely not to every book like that, you miss out on so many wonderful books. It's like, just because they have that aspect doesn't mean there's not a lot of really wonderful things. Everyone who doesn't like books with lots of names, you should still try it sometimes. They're worth it.
And I would say that it goes the other way too. Like, we do Spooky Month every year, and I'm definitely not a spooky kind of reader.
You're such a good sport.
but like, and so Lily has not complete control over that, but has a lot more control over that than necessarily some other parts of the calendar. But like, it's really fun to read outside of your genre sometimes, or outside of your comfort zone. And sure, there's a lot of books that we read for Spooky Month that end up not being for me. But we've read stuff that I was, unexpectedly found myself unexpectedly enjoying too.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. I think that there's that level of spontaneity, I think, when it comes to all these creative endeavors, that I think it really adds spice to life. Do you know what I mean? The fact that there's room for that. I do want to know, kind of leading into that, like, so I know, and again, you two have been doing this for quite a while. You're veterans, you're pros. Do you feel that, and again, not asking you to give away any trade secrets here, do you feel that you're taking your podcast in a certain direction? Do you feel that it's still more just kind of like, as we go along, we kind of do this? Is it like, how do you feel about now, like after 6 years of doing it, like where it's going?
I feel like whenever Sarah and I are planning, what should we do the next couple of months or next year, as we sometimes plan out a little in advance.
I do get a little enthusiastic about planning our calendar.
There's always a conversation that comes up with, oh, these episodes did really well with like listenership and viewership, versus, but we want to do this. And it often overlaps. I think the topics that we're very interested in is more compelling to listen to. But for example, interviews. We love interviewing people. It's wonderful. It's delightful. I love meeting writers and other folks in the industry. But sometimes I want to just sit without having to brush my hair and like talk shit about a book, like shoot the shit about a book. and it's just much more casual and low key when it's just Sara and I. And so sometimes we are like, well, let's just not do interviews for a while and just hang out for a month or so, even if it might not boost our numbers as much.
Yeah, totally hear you. And Sara, being, I think, as terms of team, sounds like we have some similarities. You're, probably, I'm guessing you're a planner. I'm an obsessive planner. That something wrong with me. But do you feel like there is a certain direction that you and Lilly are taking the podcast, or that you might want to take the podcast in specifically?
I mean,
can I interrupt?
Yes, please.
You're asking. So, I guess this is our first actual announcement. I'm going to be on maternity leave for the second half of this year.
Yeah, congratulations!
Thank you.
That's amazing.
So all of the planning questions are hard to answer.
Congratulations! I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
Which has put a huge wrench in poor Sara's calendar.
The second half of this year is very difficult to plan for, understandably. So we're just not planning for the second half of this year. But like in a more general sense, we do, at the end of each year, we do a year in review episode where we talk a little bit about some of our statistics and like the breakdown of fantasy versus sci-fi books that we read, things like that. And talk a little bit about what our goals for the next year are. And I think that we've been pretty consistent over the years about wanting to have a more even balance in terms of genres, a more even balance in terms of self or indie small press published versus, traditionally published. And so I feel like that's the kind of planning and direction that we talk about going. And we are, for the most part, pretty successful in that, I'd say.
We've definitely our numbers have been trending up as far as those goals. So that's been nice. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I'm very happy about that. And again, huge congratulations to you and your family. Taylor, of course, sends her congratulations. I'm sure she's as happy as I am. And then we have Catherine Ellis. Hello, Catherine. Thanks for joining. She says, yay. Also, a big congratulations for Lilly. So, yeah.
Hi, Mom.
That's Mom.
Yeah.
Hello, Leslie. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
She might be more excited than me.
We're between Deb and I, we have 7, as you both know from meeting us, and between Deb and I, we have 3 grandchildren and 1 more on the way. And I'm telling you, myself, it is the best experience. And just like all the cliches, you love them, you spend time with them, you sugar them up, and then you go, whoop, there you go, back to the parents. So it's awesome. Yeah. And she says hello. So, and once again, thanks for coming out to support your family. So maybe linked to what we were just talking about, and you both had mentioned, how do you feel about that constant maybe push and pull and tug between wanting to post content that gets you the clicks, gets you the views, or the listens, or the likes, boost your numbers, your subscriber numbers, and all that, versus putting out stuff that I just want to put this out. I don't care if 0 people listen to it, but this is awesome. How do you both navigate that?
I think it's hard because, and I don't like the term content creator because that's so like dry and unemotional and uncreative. But that is partially what we are. I mean, we are creating content. And so you do have to balance like doing stuff that will keep people listening versus doing stuff that you like your heart really wants to do. And there's a lot of overlap, right? It's not always a one or the other. But I think that for some of the books where we're like, well, this is a very narrow listenership that this is going to bring in, we do try to balance that out with something that will maybe be a little bit broader appeal. But we don't want to go so far in the broad direction that we don't do the stuff that we find fun.
And the real problem is that there's a finite number of hours in the day.
Also that.
If we could just release an episode, if I could read a book a day and we could record and release an episode, then it would be fine. But because, unfortunately, you do run out of slots, we do about an episode a week. That's roughly 50 books a year, that you can't cover everything. And so you have to make decisions. And there is that balance between, obviously the well-known books are going to be more exciting for people to listen to, that title recognition, versus the smaller press or new authors that we want to support and read. But I mean, our argument for ourselves is that by doing the bigger name titles, hopefully we can bring some of that listenership to the smaller authors and help everyone. So.
Well, as one of those smaller authors who's not a big name and who
I don't know. I think your episode was a pretty big draw.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. But certainly, as me not being a big name and not being a popular author, I'm very grateful to you both for everything you've done to support me and to have me on your podcast. So I just want to take this juncture to say thank you so much. It does mean a lot. So I really appreciate it.
Well, we enjoyed being able to talk to you about your book, so thank you.
Yes.
Now, I know for you probably, all of your guests are wonderful and all your guests are amazing, but do each of you have one podcast, and not so much for the book, but for maybe what you knew about the author, what you learned perhaps in research, or if you actually interviewed the author or had some interaction later on? I mean, for example, you met them at a con, or is there any book, and relating to that book, the author, that stands out for you, like in your 6 years? Like, if you could pick one that kind of like really stands out.
I think there's two, and so Sarah, we can each have one.
Yeah, we're probably thinking about the same too.
Yeah. So I'll start with Sherwood Smith, who is an author that we both read as, I guess, that young adult age slot. Hugely impactful on, I'll speak for myself, but Sarah probably would agree with me. Yeah.
Yes.
And she came on as a guest so early on in our podcast career. I can't believe she responded to our email still. And so that, I think, still is like one of those moments that, like, I can't believe I met her. Like, we're kind of friends. She might know who I am if you brought me up. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was absolutely, getting Sherwood Smith onto the podcast was absolutely a pinch me moment, because she was one of those authors that was so influential on young Sara. And so the fact that she was willing to come on to talk to us, and she came onto the podcast a couple of times to talk about various books. So that was just amazing. I suspect the other author that you're thinking about, Lilly, is Rob Wilkins.
Yeah.
Yes, who was Terry Pratchett's assistant. And he wrote a biography of Terry Pratchett, A Life with Footnotes. And his publicist actually reached out to us to ask if we were interested in interviewing him.
Wow.
And that was an incredible moment, because I think we had talked about it before, and we were like, oh, there's no way we can get him on. He's too big of a name. That's too far of a dream. So the fact that he came on and chatted with us was absolutely incredible. And he was a wonderful, wonderful person to chat with.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations. That sounds, amazing. It's funny. I was mentioning, I think, I don't remember the context, but I was mentioning before. I think it was speaking about iconic authors, fantasy authors in my corner of the space, like Mark Lawrence and Janie Wirtz, and that I've had the privilege of meeting and talking to, and of course, with Janie being a dear friend. almost that thing about, they say, oh, we'll never meet your heroes, but then, I think in our community, in the bookish space, our heroes are just wonderful, warm, amazing, open, accessible, giving people that, they just love books, and they love to talk about them, and they love to hang out with bookish people, and they're so giving of their time, and we forget sometimes that, and they're people just like us, right? They and I think that's a wonderful thing to discover. Like the longer you stay in this community, the more you realize that is the average person. It doesn't matter how many millions of copies they've sold, or what level they are as an editor or an agent, or but that's how they are, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found basically everyone in the community that we've ever interacted with has been so warm and thoughtful and giving of their time. It's a wonderful community. It truly is.
Speaking of one of heroes, and someone who writes about heroes in space, no less, the wonderful Joe Byrne, who is amazing. Obviously, we've had the privilege of meeting him as well at Seattle Worldcon. Joe is a fabulous person, an amazing person in the community, a brilliant writer. Can't wait to get back to his Hybrid Helix series and Rohan. I've only read the first book, but it is spectacular. He is probably one of the funniest guys as well out there. He's got a spectacular sense of humor, just someone that you love hanging out with. And and he is right. Sometimes it feels surreal, like, I'm talking to Janie Wertz, I'm talking to Mark Lawrence, I'm talking to, Peter Jelly Clark, or whoever, right? Evan Winter, and all these people that you look up to, you idolize for the craft, and then you get to know them, and they're even better people. And that's, a really, really nice feeling. It kind of vindicates why we spend so much of our time in these spaces. You know what I mean? Because we spend a lot of time in these spaces.
Yeah, we do.
Right? I think as Lilly pointed out, that there's only so much time in a day, and God willing, if I, hopefully I'm going to retire in a couple of years. Other than spending time with Deb and my kids and grandkids, I want to devote a lot of time to, other than writing, of course, to reading. Right? Like, I can't wait to just read more, because I don't have the time. But I gotta say, no, we're not too good to you, buddy. You this is all what you deserve, man. You're one of the best. So I do want to say that, what has been my experience with cons specifically, and you were both in Seattle recently, and I'm not sure what other cons you've been to, but my experience is also is that we forget sometimes, I think, how diverse and wide the community is. Like, even just at a fantasy convention, I mean, there's people there from all over, right? It's not just bloggers and booktubers and people who like to, or people who like to dress up in a certain costume, or there's just so many people there. What's your experience been like going to conventions? I'm not sure how many you've been to. And what was your experience like in Seattle in general? Can you both each talk about that, if you don't mind?
Well, I've only been to the one as far as bookish conventions goes, and Worldcon in Seattle was fantastic. I live in Seattle, so it was also fun to have it be kind of in my backyard, and just meeting people that I recognize, their names, and being able to see them, like, oh, that is a human being behind the screen. I think that's important, and not that the community necessarily needs. This community needs that reminder, but it is still good to have that human connection, I think.
Yeah, so Worldcon was the first book-specific convention that I've been to. I go to a Doctor Who con every year.
Oh, okay.
I assumed that didn't count.
It's a convention.
Yeah, I've been to anime conventions. That wasn't the question.
No, but the question was also around conventions in general.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I also go to a Wheel of Time convention every year.
That is book specific.
Yeah, very much.
Which is, I mean, it also is show specific a little bit, because there was the Wheel of Time TV show.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so good. I'm still mad about that. Anyway.
Sorry.
But Worldcon was the first like book specific convention where a lot of the book community that I was part of attended. There actually is a significant amount of people in the bookish community who go to JordanCon too, but it was really nice to just be able to put faces to the names that I've been interacting with. Like, it was lovely to meet you in person.
Wow.
Like, that was definitely a highlight. And just being able to see, you know, all of these people that I know on the screen, but haven't had a chance to interact with in person was maybe honestly my favorite part about the con. Just that human aspect and that connection.
We were much more social at Worldcon than we have ever been at the Doctor Who convention.
Yes.
Like, I was much more interested in actually meeting people and having conversations than I like. Instead of just being there for the panel content, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was kind of like the panel content was a bonus, but seeing people was the main draw, versus the other way around.
Yeah, I found it, and it's funny. I've only been to 2 World Cons now, and all the other cons I've been to more local. In Canada, I was typically, it's Deb and I, and we're selling our wares, so to speak. We're sitting down there at a booth with books, and we're interacting with people. And it's wonderful. You get to meet some people, but you're also trying to advertise and promote your books and sell them potentially. But it's been amazing to go to World Cons, the first one in Glasgow and the last one in Seattle, where that's certainly not the focus. You just interact, meet, hang out. And I found, and I'm not sure how you both felt, like, and I was a speaker on some of the panels as well, but there was a lot of panels I wanted to get to simply listen and learn and just engage. And I wasn't able. I mean, there's only so much. I mean, as you know, with these things, there's a lot to do. There's only so much time. You get pulled in a lot of different directions. You know, you see somebody you want to meet or want to hang out with. It's like, oh, well, let's go hang out and talk to them for a while. And then next thing you know, 3 hours have gone by and you're going to go to a panel. And do you know what I mean? Or you best lay plans and someone says, hey, you want to go to this thing here afterwards? Like, oh, okay, well, and, so it's very, I think it's one of those things where you almost have to just go there with no real plans to and I don't do well with that.
I know that's hard. That's hard.
I don't do it. It's hard.
Yeah.
But probably Lilly does better than that. She seems a lot more spontaneous and flexible that way. But yeah, like, I think, I don't know how you each feel. I think it's one of those things where, yeah, to a certain degree, you just have to just embrace it and go, yep. If I miss that panel, I miss that panel, but I got to hang out with, say, Joe, for example, right? Or you two, or do you know what I mean? Is that how? But is that what happened when you went?
I would say so. There were panels that I wanted to go to, and that didn't happen because, for whatever reason, we were off doing other things. But it was a fantastic experience, and a lot of the panels were online afterwards, so that kind of helped assuage some of that FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Joe says, "Yep, seeing people in person." No, I'm not surprised, Joe. You're the life of the party. Joe, of course, is a really outgoing, gregarious, funny, warm guy that everybody wants to get to meet him. I'm sure every few feet he took, someone was trying to pull him to come over and talk to them and do something. So, And my also another very extremely popular person who everyone wants a piece of, my friend Taylor, wants a piece of her time. She says the last academic convention of the panels. I might say, yeah, because Taylor, again, life of the party, loves socializes and people love to socialize with her. So but yeah, but it was actually the best part. The best part was just showing up, and then someone who I didn't know was going to be there. You run into them, big hug, you start talking to them. It's like, oh, I was going to get this panel, and then that's gone. But then the panels were incredible, and I have to say that the content I found, especially in Seattle, was amazing, and I felt like I learned so much, and to be part of some of the panels as one of the speakers, that was, and a moderator, that was great too. But I think it's really added something for my experience in this community. So I like to hear it's done the same for both of you. So that's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, question, and I'm wondering if I can get a hot take from.
Uh-oh.
Not nothing too controversial. Just I want to put you on the spot that badly. Come on, you guys are my peeps, right? So, okay. So, I'm going to give you choice A and choice B, and I would like to hear from each of you what that choice is. So, podcast on Spotify or YouTube live on camera?
Spotify, because doing a live is a lot of work. I mean, just in the sense that, like, if you mess up or want to restart a sentence, everyone can see your mess up, whereas they can't do that in the podcast that Lilly edits.
Yeah, I've spoiled you.
You have.
No, I agree. And especially, like, our podcast is no video, which is really nice and casual. I don't have to worry about my posture or what my background looks like.
No, I totally get it, and it's funny because obviously I've never done the old Spotify, podcast where people are just listening, not watching it. I mean, I'm the worst YouTuber ever. I when I first started, I was putting my camera backwards. I was like all the little mistakes, and I don't edit. It's just PL unfiltered, right? Whatever, like you know what I mean. And I just because I guess like I said, I don't do this for, and of course I want to be professional, but to a point. I mean, I don't do this. I'm not monetized. I don't even know how many.
It's a hobby.
Yeah, it's a hobby, right? I do this to give back primarily because so many people have done so much to give to me, right, in this community, and I felt the need to definitely give back, and that's why I kind of started the whole Six Elementals interviews thing to shine a light on, like with Taylor. Like Taylor and I do page twoing. We've had people with, from people with all kinds of profiles and audiences, but also a lot of them have been people that are fairly well known, right? The Tad Williamses, the Evan Winters, the Fonleys, you name it. So those people have a platform already, but it's the people who are getting there or are definitely going places and or are happy with the smaller audience that they have. But irrespective of what kind of reach they have, they're worth getting to know, and certainly their works, especially if their authors are worth getting to know, and that's why I started Six Elementals. So, but I think one thing that attracts me when I was thinking about Spotify is that I wouldn't have to worry about like what I'm wearing, or
it's nice.
That's pretty cool. Like definitely don't have to worry about editing to the same degree. Like very tempting.
Yeah,
And also, like if one of us is not feeling up for recording when we have recording scheduled, we can push it back a day because it's not live. No one, as long as the episode comes out at the time that it's supposed to come out, no one cares when we record it. Which, unless we have a guest, that changes the equation a little bit. But it is, I think, a lot easier in many respects than live streaming. So the fact that you live stream, like, you have my deepest and sincerest admiration.
And frankly, I think it's part of why our podcast has managed to go on for so long, because it is such a casual recording experience. Even if there is a week that we're feeling off, it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah.
But, and so I don't think I could do a live week after week for 5 years. Like that would be so much more exhausting for me personally, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for longevity in doing things like this. I mean, I'm not sure how much you two keep up. I mean, there's been some brilliant booktubers, especially. I'm more in tune with what's going on outside in my little tiny corner of booktube, and booktube and huge, of course, and then YouTube is so much bigger. But I've seen a lot of brilliant booktubers specifically come and go over the last few years. Some of it is burnout, which is real, obviously, and things happen in people's personal lives. Some unfortunate things have happened too, and some really positive reasons why people have left too. Like, positive change to work. They got this huge promotion and just can't devote the time, or of growing family, etc. Those are all positive, right? The attrition isn't all negative, but at the same time, I think there's something to be said for longevity and doing this for a while and having, like, I guess, a sense of accomplishment with the body of work, and also to just your audience getting to know you, right, over the period of 2, 3, 4, 5. In your case, it's 6. That's the big. I'm still blown away. Like 6 years. Wow.
Well, we haven't actually started our 6th year yet.
Yeah.
That'll be in
Yeah, but-
February.
Yeah, but that's next month, man. I'm shocked calling it. You're there.
Yeah.
You're there. So yeah. But definitely, I think there's something to be said for your longevity. So congratulations, right? Like, that's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and like you said, I am proud of it. Like, I think we've built a really, well, I enjoy it still, and we've been doing it for 5 years, so that's got to say something.
Yes. I mean, I don't think either of us would still be doing it if we lost enjoyment in it. This is like with you, this is a hobby for us. We don't make money on it. We lose money on it. We just do it because we like the community and we like the books and we like reading. And so if at any point it stopped being fun, I think we would stop doing it. But the fact that it still feels fun after 5 years, I think says something.
Yeah, and it's also a testament to your relationship and the fact your family, you love each other, and not just love each other, you like each other and you like each other's company, and you get along, and you can talk to each other for an hour or however long it takes you to film, and it's still fun, like you said, right? So that's a testament also to the strength of your relationship, which is great.
Thank you. Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to be controversial here or take in a direction that, but okay. So my question for you both is, in each individual, it's like, has there been a book that, your opinions about it, and maybe it's something you consider for the podcast, or that your opinions were so diametrically opposed, it's like, this is going to be a no-go for the podcast? I know you said that sometimes that makes the best conversation, but you're like, but this might get a bit dicey. We better not do this one. And I'm not asking you to name the book, but
Right.
maybe the circumstances and how that went down.
Not because we disagreed on it. that has never been a problem for us. There have been some books that we both didn't care for, that but we also didn't want to be too honest about. You don't want to be mean, but we also don't want to be dishonest to our listeners. So trying to walk that line has been challenging a couple of times. If one of us dislikes it, that's fine, because then the other person could argue with them.
And I think there is only one book that we had scheduled on the podcast, and I started reading it and I said, I can't discuss this in a way that is respectful to the author and respectful to our listeners. And so we removed it from the schedule. But for the most part, we don't have any big problems, because I think that we're pretty good about picking books that, even just based on the blurb, that at least one of us will really enjoy. We're not entirely successful, but I think we're pretty good at it by now.
Well, kudos to you both for the kindness, because as an author, I can tell you, like, I have no problem, obviously, with people not liking my book. It's not for everybody. Everybody's gonna like every book, and my book is, I write a detestable main character. Lots of people bounce off it, if nothing else, for that alone, right? Because some people don't like to read characters like that and want someone who's likable, etc. But I do want to commend you both for saying that you want to give something its due, and you want to do it in a certain manner that was going to preserve the author's dignity and do it with a sense of grace. So kudos to you both for that, because we all know that and again, I hate to say this, like, I don't know what that says about our society, but it's just human nature. It's all of us that negative things, like negative reviews, they tend to get a lot of traction on the four platforms like YouTube. Rant reviews, like those things tend to do, like, it picks you up a lot of times more of an audience, right? So
Mhm.
kudos to you both for kind of saying that's not what we're about. So
It's much more fun to, enjoy what you're talking about. And I also think that there's a difference. Like, you have to recognize that just because you don't like something doesn't mean it was bad. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it just means that you didn't like a thing or it wasn't for you. And I think that we're pretty good at recognizing that.
I was about to say, I think that we're self-aware enough to be able to say, I didn't enjoy this book because this was a reader mismatch, and that's a really different conversation from, oh my God, the prose or whatever might be the case.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, my, one of the best interviewers in the world, Miss Taylor, of course, she has an amazing question. So she says, have there been any surprises in the positive direction? A book that one of you thought might not be your favorite, but agreed to read for the podcast, and you liked it more than you thought?
Absolutely.
It's behind me. The Temps by, I think, Andrew DeYoung.
Andrew DeYoung, yes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Indie author. Okay.
Yeah.
What was it about? If you just a quick, pitch kind of thing, like what was it about it that perhaps you maybe you had some preconceived notions, or you just like, I don't know anything about this book, and then suddenly, oh, this is great. What was it, Lily?
Well, the blurb about this book in particular is it's a group of temps from a corporation surviving in a post-apocalyptic world. And I definitely, from the blurb, I think we both thought it was going to be a little more slapstick. I wasn't familiar with him as an author at that point. And so I was just like, oh, it's going to be silly. It's not a super long book, whatever. But it ended up being so thoughtful, and the blurb did not prepare me for that at all. It was very good, and I think we both enjoyed it a lot more, on a lot more cerebral level than we expected.
Wow.
Yeah, I would also say more recently, The House on Utopia Way by Stefan Mohammed, which is this kind of
similar thing with the blurb we thought was going to be sillier than it was.
Yeah, it's this kind of like surreal noir cyberpunk vibe. And it ended up being such a thoughtful, interesting novel in a way that I hadn't been expecting from the blurb necessarily.
And I get it. As an author, you can't put, by the way, I'm really smart at the end of your blurb.
I want to, but it doesn't play well.
Like, hey, also everything that you see, it's on purpose. Trust me. I wish authors could say that, although I don't know if I'd believe it necessarily. But I think that has been a lot of when it happens, that has been the case. Like, it's a kind of a silly premise that ends up being very considerate in a way that it's hard to get across in a blurb, which is why it's important to take chances on things.
Yeah. And I think you'll, and you definitely, I can certainly attest that you find that in the indie sphere. You both mentioned that you're reading in a lot of indies as well as traditionally published books. And I think we indies, we love to take chances, right? We're revolutionaries. We try to, it's not even purposeful. I just think we're avant-garde because we are, right? It's just the nature of the side of the house that the way we do things. But yeah, I it's funny as an author. I'm not sure how my author friends feel. I don't know if JCM has a comment, but it's always a delicate balance between writing a blurb that's interesting but not giving away too much of the plot, like spoiling the plot. Right, that's always that kind of delicate balance. So it's hard. That's all I can say. It is hard. So I'm just giving excuses here for us authory people that it is tough. It is tough. So
well, I mean, you spend 160,000 words telling your story, and then you have to condense it down into 100. Like that sounds impossible.
Yeah, and condense it down in a way that you give enough excitement and convey a sense of what's going on, and hook someone to actually take your book off the shelves out of how many 100 books, or choose your book out of the million on Amazon of the millions, and you're scrolling. It's like, oh, maybe that one. So yeah, it is. But that's also the cool part, right? About when you did manage to do that effectively, that someone did go, okay, you know what? Yeah, interesting blurb. I'll take a shot at that. Like, that's a success, right? So that's a good feeling. That's a good feeling, definitely. So okay, so I know we're winding down here, and I know, apologies. I know the doggies are sleeping. I can hear them snoring there, Sarah. They're probably like, oh my gosh,
kind of sleeping.
Yeah, but they got a really long walk before this, so they should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they had their prep. They're just terrors. My tiny terrors.
Oh, it sounds so cute. So okay, so right, can you tell us something that can you give us a rec for a book? You've given us a couple amazing ones. Can you give us a rec, please, for a book that people need to read more? It doesn't matter whether it's indie or trad published, or just one like, hey, people really need to read this, and kind of why.
I need to go look at our calendar, because suddenly everything that we've ever read
has left your mind. Yeah,
has left my mind. Yeah,
and needs to be read more.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Starstruck by Amy Ogden, which came out from Psychopomp earlier in 2025. It is a really quiet novella that, I don't want to spoil too much, has a bittersweet ending that was so satisfying despite being really bittersweet. So I would highly recommend that.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're in the mood for a good cry.
Yeah.
I owe them. Yeah. Therapeutic. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Put that one on the TBR. Okay, Lily, what you got?
The Factus trilogy, I think, is the name of it, but Tenlo is the first book by Stark Holborn.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of that one. I think I have. Yeah.
I am such a simp for Tenlo. It is. It's actually funny. So I have issues with first person perspective. That sometimes it's a me thing, sometimes it's not. So when I started reading this book, or Tenlo of the series, I think I got like 2 pages in and was like, oh no. And then I got 2 more pages in and I was hooked. It has like chance demons, but it's also sci-fi setting. It's like a really solid Western sci-fi. So much fun. I love the character. It's really character driven, which is something that does work for me. But I recommend it. I think I even got it for one of my husband's friends for his birthday. I was like, if I just give this to enough people, more people will read it.
Okay, all right. Gotta put that one on the TBR too. And I'm sorry, I can't help it. Just my mind is going a million miles an hour, and so questions come out of questions. So Lily, I have to know. So dying to know, what is it about first person perspective that doesn't necessarily jive for you some of the time?
It's I think I'm much harder on it than I am for prose that's in third person perspective. I have much higher expectations because it's not just, does this prose work? Are these sentences beautiful? Do they make sense? But I also have that thing in the back of my head that's going, why am I reading this right now? Like, who is talking to me and why? If it's, found diary entries or something, that answers that question. But if it's just an internal monologue, it's really hard for me to get over that. And then also, if it's believable that someone would actually say that in their head, especially if it is just supposed to be an internal monologue, like, people sound differently in their heads than they do when they're writing a letter or something. And so I often clash with that. Especially with a lot of descriptions. I'm like, no one would say that about themselves, is something that I find myself thinking often. I often am very hypercritical of first person in a way that I know I'm not about third person. And that's usually unfair.
Well, not necessarily, and not necessarily. I want to get to Sarah's perspective in a second, but I also want to know too, because these are questions that fascinate me. Do you feel that you're missing out when you get a first person? In other words, like, okay, well, I'd really like to know what's going on here, and the character's saying this about this person, but I want to know objectively, or as objectively as possible, what they're really about. Do you find that? Is that an aspect of it that?
No, that doesn't usually bother me. If it's done well, that I really enjoy that it's a biased perspective. There's that big caveat there.
Okay, that's fascinating. Sarah, what about you? Do you like the more omnipotent, perspectives, or are you fine with first person?
So I do tend to prefer the more omnipotent, like third person perspective, but I don't have any issues reading first person. I'm certainly not as hypercritical about first person as Lilly is. When we have a book on the podcast that's in first person, we usually spend a significant amount of time arguing about the use of that perspective. So it's not something that bothers me necessarily.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I got off camera. I gotta ask you guys about what the arguments were about my book, because I'm thinking like, oh boy, it sounds like mine would have been like definitely persona non grata maybe for both of you. But no, I'm just teasing. It's all good.
Well, and I don't hate all first person books. I just know that there's a much higher bar for me to enjoy them. But some of my favorite books are in first person, so it's not like a hard and fast rule that I have. I try to acknowledge that it's often a me problem and not a book problem if the prose in first person perspective isn't working for me.
Yeah, it's funny when it comes to that, because for example, like I read a lot of different, mostly fantasy and sci-fi, but I couldn't even begin to tell you which one I like better, considering that so many of my favorite authors write first person, and so many of my favorite authors write more omnipotent perspectives. Like I couldn't even tell you which I prefer, just because it's such a such a diverse amount of authors that I love. Like George R. Martin, I haven't read all his work, but everything I've read from him is third person, right, or at least close to that. And then someone like Bernard Cornwell, he excels at first person. So, and I love them both. Like I couldn't choose, but yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know. Sorry, that's a tangent. I just, when I talk to you guys, people that I like and people that I find, fascinating and smart, I just go off in these little. So I apologize. I just couldn't.
No need to apologize.
I will talk about first person perspective all day, so I apologize.
No, don't. Maybe we'll have to have you both back, and we'll have like half the broadcasts about perspectives and stuff, right? But listen, you both have been so generous with your time. I am just so blessed to know both of you. I'm so honored to have you both on the program. As we're winding down, I'd like to give both of you the opportunity to maybe perhaps talk a bit more about the podcast itself. So, like, what is the format generally for the podcast? Is it only on Spotify? Is it also on YouTube? How long are they generally? What can people expect when they listen to something from Fiction Fans?
So we do post on YouTube, but it doesn't have video. It's just our little album cover. You can hear Sarah's pugs in the background of most of the episodes.
Oh, so cute.
You can. This is Cookie.
Hey, Cookie.
She is one of the tiny terrors.
Oh, so cutie.
Yeah. So the podcast is available in, I'm going to say, everywhere that you can listen to podcasts, although I think we're not on Amazon just because of personal reasons. As far as the format goes, we usually just cover one book an episode, although we do sometimes do episodes that are more broad topic. And one thing that we try really hard to do is split the episode into two sections. The first half will be a conversation that has no spoilers. So if you haven't read the book and you're considering it and you don't want to have anything spoiled for you, you can almost always listen to the first half of the episode and you'll be safe. And then we'll have a break, a very clear spoiler warning. And then the second half is sort of no holds barred. We'll talk about all of the content of the novel. Even though I don't care that much about getting things spoiled, I still think it feels respectful to try to break it up that way. And then you can have more interesting conversations, especially with interviews, when you don't have to try to keep yourself from spoiling something the whole time. I think that's something that authors have mentioned they like about our format, that we have that second half, that they can really get into detail that sounds like they don't often get the opportunity to do.
That is phenomenal. Yep. No, I appreciate not being spoiled. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And then as far as the length goes, they're usually around 45 minutes. Sometimes they're half an hour, sometimes they're 2 hours, depending on
how much we argue.
If there's a guest, it's usually a little longer, but yeah, so it really depends. The length fluctuates based on content.
Oh, that is awesome. And exclusively on Spotify for, I know you mentioned YouTube, but in terms of platforms for the audio version, is it, because some people use...
Yeah, no, it's on TuneIn, Pocket Casts. It's all over the place.
Apple Podcasts. Basically you can find it wherever your podcasts live. There might be some exceptions to that, but for the most part, it's available pretty widely.
Okay, fantastic. And where can we follow each of you wonderful people, or collectively, on the thing that is called social media?
I'm so bad at social media. You can follow Sara.
Yeah, so our social media for the podcast is @FictionFansPod on pretty much every platform. We do still have a Twitter, but we don't post there. We're primarily on Bluesky and Instagram. You can also usually find me, my personal account, at SVMCaro, but if you're wanting to hear me talk about books or us talk about books, I don't usually do that on my personal account. So,
and I do have a Bluesky at Lilly Scribe, but if you want to talk to me, you should talk to Fiction Fans, and then Sara will text me and tell me that you tagged Fiction Fans.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. That is awesome. Well, like I said, it has been so amazing talking to both of you. I hope you'll do me the honor of coming back in the future. This has
anytime.
This has been just so much fun for me. I've been looking forward to this, for quite a few weeks, ever since you both said yes. So thank you for coming on. This has been wonderful. I guess hoping to do it again. In terms of me, quickly, the PL Stewart, everything's at PL Stewart Writes on social media. The website's plstewart.com. The books, you'll forgive the shameless self-promo core, because that's part of what I do. The Drowned Kingdom Saga, 5 books out now. The last one that came out recently is A Pack of Wolves. And book 6, A Black Dragon Unread, is expected in the late spring of 2026. Publishing a book a year still, so that's the goal. Also, quickly, Shape as a World anthology, my short story, kind of fantasy horror, Forest Dark, is in this. It is in the Drowned Kingdom Saga universe, but it's quite different from what you're going to read in. If either one of you are interested, definitely send your art, because there are some amazing short stories in here. Forget about mine, but there's some amazing authors, the MJ Kuhn. So if you want to,
I don't want to forget about yours. I want to read yours.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But there are some amazing authors in here, and if you don't want to, go through the slog of, reading one of my 400, 500 page tomes. I know you read one of them already, and thank you. You're great for that. But yeah, I think it's fun, and I think it's an interesting. I think it's a little appetizer, a little teaser, perhaps for what's potentially coming in the series that a lot of people wouldn't be aware unless they read that short story, and that's obviously purposeful. But yeah, sure, I'll send you both an arc if you're interested. And
I'd love it.
There's some great short stories in there, honestly. I really like. I try to promote that anthology in general wherever I can, because there are some brilliant authors and some great stories in there. So
I love short stories. It's a nice change of pace from reading a novel. Like, sometimes you do want to read the long novel, but sometimes also you just want to read one short thing before you have dinner or go to bed or whatever, and be able to put the book down.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. So, leaving the of course, Six Elementals, my YouTube channel, The Dark King Saga, where I get to speak to amazing people like Sara and Lilly, and my partner made to the pages who may have gone already, but if she's still lurking, check out her channel. She is phenomenal. Especially check out her vlogs. Her vlogs are like wow, they're just amazing.
They are.
The Japan stuff. Yeah, she's
She's
great.
fantastic.
She is just amazing. But we do page chewing, which is a similar interview series. The Six Elemental stuff is more focused on the indie side predominantly, but I mean, there's all kinds. There's all kinds, not just authors, but on page chewing, predominantly booktubers and authors. But again, anybody in the community who we think is amazing, who contributes, we're honored when we get to talk to them. So that is it for us. So again, it's been such a treat to hang out with Fiction Fans Podcast. Sara and Lilly, I hope they do come back. Everybody who popped in the live, Taylor, Joe, everybody that popped by, your mom, Lilly, anybody that popped by, really, really, really appreciate it. Anyone who's going to watch the replay, can't forget the Poochies. Thanks, Poochies. For popping by. You are what makes
providing some background noise that you probably didn't need.
No, that's all good. That's all good. We love the fur babies. So, anybody who watches this period, you're what makes this type of long form content amazing. Long live long form content. It is not dead. Don't let anyone fool you. It's one of the best parts of this platform of YouTube. So. All right, so once again, we, Lilly and Sara and I will be signing off, and we will see you next time.
Yes.
Bye now. Take care.
You.